trying to figure out why there's difference between my practice score and the actual test score. So I've taken the test twice, and there's a huge gap. And my average practice score is 170 and above. But on the actual test, there's like 3 or 4 points difference.
Score drops can happen for a variety of reasons. I group them into 2 major categories. One is failure to properly simulate test day conditions, and the other is nerves and anxiety. So let's talk through those a little bit. What are your practice tests like? Can you describe the setting and the experience?
Try to imitate how exactly it is in the actual test. 5 sections, exactly the break time, and no distractions, empty room, just a test, nothing else. You're surprised to hear I've done almost 50 tests, and my score has been consistent, ranging high 160s and 170 and above. And despite that, actual test just doesn't really just come out how it is expected.
Right. I see. Okay. Well, 50 tests is a lot. So you're definitely putting in the work. Now, when you took the actual test and your score was lower, what was that experience like for you taking the real thing? Did you feel like nerves and anxiety could have played a role?
Definitely. I do feel that on the actual test day, I feel more anxious. But also, I think sometimes it's endurance. Test anxiety, it just really affects the endurance also for some reason. Even though I've done 5-section practice tests, despite that, when there's an pressure anxiety, it takes away the endurance because the energy on that day is limited. And when there's a pressure, and then by the 5th section, I'm struggling, especially if it's reading comprehension section. And that's exactly what happened. My first 4 sections went perfectly fine. I finished before the end time, but in the 5th section, in an RC section, I struggled to finish it.
Right. So it sounds like that's what you've got to simulate more of. Whatever would be your worst nightmare, that's what you've got to practice. So if 5 sections is tough, of course, keep doing 5 sections. Maybe you want to do the occasional 6-section exam just to push the limits of your endurance even further. Don't do this all the time, only occasionally, because you don't want to risk burning out. But the occasional 6-section exam, 3 sections, break, another 3 sections could be good. And then I would also, of course, if you don't like having reading comp last when you're fatigued, then practice a lot of that as well. Now, another thing that could help, of course, with nerves and anxiety, I recommend often is mindfulness meditation. Do you ever do anything like that?
Yes. I have been practicing that. I read that on your blog, and it's on YouTube. I've watched them and I've digged into it, and I've seen it has helped me a lot, calm my nerves and everything. Still, it's just the pressure on the actual test day is just, some people just struggle with it. And I think it goes back for me, like when I was taking SAT for university, SAT, I had a similar experience. I was struggling with test anxiety, and it's happening again with LSAT.
Sure. One thing you want to consider, of course, is that while the LSAT as a whole is incredibly important, no one particular test day will make or break you. You can always retake. There are always more opportunities down the line. So try to keep that in mind. And law schools do not average multiple LSAT scores. They only take the highest score. So if you need to retake, no big deal.
That really helps with the pressure, elevating the pressure, but at the same time, it just makes me too laid back during the practice that, I can take it more time. I can take a gap here or something and keep extending it. But I want to tell you that I had engineering background, and that affected my GPA for law school. And then as I'm targeting for top 14 law schools and my GPA is around 3.5, that just adds pressure on the LSAT day that I have to excel in it. I have to score above 170 to increase my chances for the top law schools.
Right. No, I certainly understand that. And having an engineering background could affect your GPA compared to someone with a major that has more grade inflation. But law schools also love engineers. They love people from the STEM backgrounds because it's unique. And because when you apply to law school, you have like the engineering, you have the law, you combine those, you're a lot more employable than someone who majored in English. Obviously, you can be successful after law school no matter what you majored in, but the science background in particular can help quite a bit. And the last thing I would add for you is regarding the nerves and anxiety, to just really think through fully what are your best case and worst case scenarios with your LSAT outcome. So let's say 3 to 5 years from now, if you do great on your upcoming LSAT, what happens? 3 to 5 years from now, if you do terribly on your LSAT, what happens? And we often find that the worst case scenarios aren't nearly as bad as we think.
You're totally right. It really helps. And it's not as bad as, we start thinking, oh, if I don't go to that law school, I'm doomed and it's just the life's going to be miserable. It really isn't. And I'm working on it. It's been 4 or 5 months to my graduation. And I've taken a lot of tests in a very small period of time. Maybe I'm pushing it too much. Maybe I'm just adding too much pressure on myself. And that is because I want to enroll in this upcoming fall quarter, fall 2020. And right now I'm considering taking March LSAT for this fall quarter intake. And I want to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, so I was going to ask when you're taking it. So you've got about a month and a half, 2 months till your upcoming LSAT. And so I would suggest you set up a schedule for yourself where every week you're doing perhaps one full-length timed exam, maybe 5 sections, maybe 6 sections, really reviewing those exams in depth. So fewer exams reviewed in more depth. You said earlier you've done 50 exams timed. So I get the sense that you're very committed and you want to give it your all. Yeah. And the risk you run is really the one of doing too much. I wouldn't want you to burn out. So slow down a bit, do fewer exams, and really think through how you can set them up to mitigate the nerves and anxiety and to even more fully simulate test day conditions whenever possible. So if there's anything you could be doing, like maybe taking them in a slightly distracting environment rather than the comfort of your own home, because the test center obviously will have other people there who could distract you.
No, thank you for that. And you really reminded me of something which I really feel bad about. On the previous test, the day before the test, I took a 5-timed section practice test, day before the actual test.
Ooh.
And and I felt it next day. I was feeling it. By the third section of the test, I was like, just why I just cannot think. Why do I have to reread the question, not just stimulus, the question? I was rereading it. That affected me. So thank you for reminding me, not pushing it so much to the point of burning out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you want to walk in feeling fresh on the day of the exam. So I would say if your exam is on a Saturday, then maybe take your final full-length practice test on either Wednesday or Thursday. Do nothing on Friday. Totally relax, take it easy, take a bath, get a massage, go for a walk, watch TV, whatever. And then you walk in the next day and kill it. But you want to walk in feeling fresh and ready to go. And maybe you want to do a couple of warm-up questions immediately before you enter the test center, but that's it. Any other questions you have for me, Ali?
Thank you.
Of course.
So the March test is coming up in a month and a half. And so what do you suggest to stay calm and just have making my actual test score reflect my practice score, which is averages around 170? How many tests should I take in a week?
My rule for this is maximum 2 tests per week, minimum 2 hours per review of each exam. So maximum 2 exams per week, never on consecutive days. So maybe you do one Sunday and one Wednesday, or one Saturday and one Tuesday. You use the days in between to review the exam you did the previous day and also rest a little bit and maybe do some drilling on your weak areas. But that's it. You don't really need to do anything more than that. You've built your foundation already. You've done a ton of exams up to this point. It's really about doing those exams, 1 or 2 per week, and reviewing them. And that's all you really need to do. In the meantime, if you want more, you can watch my YouTube videos, listen to the podcast, read my site.
Yes.
But nothing else is really necessary. Well, I'm really glad we connected, Ali. Before we sign off, what would you say is the biggest insight you got from our call today?
I believe the biggest insight is trying to stay calm and believing that, considering how much practice I've done, that I can do it. And really have to just calm down and think what's missing. Because here I am putting effort, here I am focused, But if there's something lagging, I really need to just analyze it and just focus on that, which is you suggest that I should meditate and not push myself too much. Maybe that's what I'm doing.
Awesome. Well, again, Ali, pleasure connecting. Please keep in touch and let me know if I can help in any way as you move forward.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.